In today's lesson video, we will be exploring properties of linear graphs. We will be doing investigations to see what happens to the line when the slope is changed, and then to see what happens to the line when the y-intercept is changed. Our very first investigation will deal with changing the slope. Let's ask ourselves the question, how does changing the slope of a line affect the graph of the line? So I'm going to be graphing each one of these equations here. You'll notice that the y-intercepts are all the same, but the slopes are different. So I'm going to start up here by graphing the intercept, and then I'm going to make a couple additional points using the slope. Same thing here, intercept, couple additional points using the slope. And then down here, I've got two negative lines. So I start with the intercept, and then you're going to see that the run is to the left to make a negative downward slope. Same thing with this last one here. Okay, taking a look at these four lines. Let's just drive our attention to the two on the right. Do you see how I've got a slope of 3 and then a slope of -3? Notice how the steepness of both of those slopes is exactly the same. Just one is going uphill and the other one is coming downhill. The positive and negative just tell you which way the line goes, up or down. But the steepness is exactly the same. Okay, with that being said, now back to the question, how does changing the slope affect the graph of the line? Let's look at the top two where I have positive slopes. Do you see how if I compare the two slopes, 1/3 and 3, the bigger the number, the steeper the slope. A slope of 3 is steeper than a slope of 1/3. If I were to graph a line with a slope of 5, it would be even steeper. A slope of 10, way steeper. The bigger the number, the steeper the slope. And the exact same rule goes for negative slopes. You just need to ignore the negative. The negative just tells you that the line is falling. Okay, but if you are comparing a slope of -1/3 with a slope of -3, you just look at the number. 1/3 to 3. A 3 is a bigger number. It's going to have a steeper slope. It's just going to be steeper going downward. Okay, so let's see if you've got this. Which line has the steepest slope? So of these four lines, you first want to look at the slopes of the lines. Remember, the positive or negative just tells you if the line goes up or down. Ignore the sign, just look at the number. 6, 4, 3/4, and 1/2. Which one is the biggest number? Of course, it would be the 6. Therefore, that line is going to have the steepest slope. It's just going to be going downhill. All right, so we've investigated changing slope. Now let's go ahead and investigate what happens if the y-intercept is changed. So we're going to ask ourselves, how does changing the y-intercept affect the graph of a line? I'm going to first start by graphing the line y equals x. So going through the zero-intercept with a slope of 1, that's what it would look like. Now, let's change the line. Let's just increase the intercept by 3. So now I'm going to change the intercept to a +3. Same steepness because the slope is the same, but I'm just going to drive that line straight up along the y-axis. You see how it went right up? Now let's change the intercept to +7. Oop, higher yet. It's going to go right up there to +7. If I make a intercept of -3, do you see how the line is going to come down on the y-axis to -3? And if I were to make it at -5, it's going to drop further down. So how does changing the y-intercept affect the graph? The line is just going to simply move up or down along the y-axis. That's all it's going to do. Because remember, the intercept is the point on the y-axis. So now let's take a look at your notes. I want you to find this part in your notes. How does the graph of an equation, how is it affected by changing the slope in the y-intercept? Let's talk about the slope first. Remember, when we changed the slope, we were affecting the steepness of the line. The bigger the number, the steeper the slope. And then when we were changing the y-intercept, we were actually moving or shifting the line up or down along the y-axis. Feel free to pause the video here so that you can put this into your notes. After this video, you should understand the effects of changing slope and y-intercept on the equation of a line.